Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're chatting with Greg Rollett. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing awesome, Alex, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Greg is the founder of ambitious.com. He's going to tell you all about that. But he's actually a former musician who's got massive media exposure. To get started, what would be your definition of optimization and why is it beneficial?
Yeah, so I'm very much a ready, fire, aim type of guy. Let's throw it. My team hates me for this because I'm like, let's just get it out to market and then let's go back and optimize because I want to see what the market reacts to. I want to see what they're opening, what they're clicking on, what they're buying, what they're giving me their credit card, and then we go back and optimize. So really, my definition of optimization is get something to market as fast as you can and look at what the market actually does. So many people have these grand ideas, right? Like, hey, I want to sell this or I want to get in this market, but they have no proof of what the market actually wants. So get market data, real market data as fast as you can, and then look at ways to use that data to improve and make your product better.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because a lot of times things move so quickly, you're really not sure if it's really going to work or not. I kind of work like that too. I'm like, if I have an idea and I can't get rid of the idea no matter what, I'll try it. And
yeah.
It might live on a domain name for years before I even do anything with it. But if it does start to get traction and it really eats out at me, then I'll put more energy to it, or if it could potentially make some money. And I think that's key to the people who own either SaaS companies or trying to build agencies. And you're really an expert of teaching people how to get in the media and leverage their business or really become a celebrity in your marketplace. I mean, I know me, I'm an author. I always want to get my books out there, promote my podcast, promote my business, become a better presenter, get paid speaking gigs.
Right.
So let's dive right into it. What are some creative ways to hone what you're good at and present it in the marketplace?
Yeah, I love that. And so hopefully everyone understands that you want to be a celebrity in your marketplace. There's a lot of people that kind of have fears of, I just run a SaaS company. I don't want to be a celebrity. I want my product to do that. But the fundamental truths of business is that people buy from people. They buy from people that they know, like, and trust. It's, Alex, is why you do this podcast. It's so, people can see your face. They meet you in person. They're like, oh, Alex, I've been watching your show for so long. Even that alone builds celebrity into a marketplace. I mean, if they listen to 30 of your episodes and they're all 30, 45 minutes each, they've listened to you for like 30 hours, man, And so you become a celebrity in their mind. And that helps with the conversion process because now there's trust built. And I think that's the biggest part of this whole celebrity piece is that it helps to build trust with your market, right? So you think about the guys, I do a lot in the financial space. So there's guys like Dave Ramsey and Susie Ormond, and people like them, they hate them, they love their philosophies, hate their philosophies. But here's the deal. Dave Ramsey's on radio, 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. So someone who's commuting to and from work or at the office, they might listen to Dave for 15 hours a week. Are you going to listen to his advice or are you going to listen to the guy who just tried to solicit you through a LinkedIn request? Right? And so that is the power of celebrity, is that you start to build this trust and this relationship with the person. Now, where does it all start? Because I think that's hopefully now I gave you the Cliff Note version of why celebrity is important, but how do you actually do it? And I think it all starts by being vulnerable to be able to tell your story. Right? Because that's what humans relate to. We relate to what I call points of affinity. And so points of affinity, you mentioned earlier that I was a musician. I was actually a rapper in a rock band and I toured the country. I got married really early. I married my high school sweetheart. We have 2 kids. We have a dog. Saying all those things, how insignificant you might think they are, someone who's listening right now just went, oh, I was in a band in high school. Maybe I should pay more attention to Greg. Oh, I got married. Oh, I remember my high school sweetheart. I didn't marry her, but I remember who she was. All these things like send off these like signals in the brain to say, hey, Greg and I are kind of alike. Maybe I should pay attention to him. Maybe I should see what he has to say. And now he's not just some foreign, object that came in on my podcast feed today. And so it all starts. This entire process starts with finding the stories throughout your life that you can now take and put into the media, because that's what the media wants. They want stories. What are the best-selling things in the entire world? Movies. What are movies? They're just stories. The best books, they're stories. Even the best business books are themed around stories. And so you have to find your different individual piece of the story, and I'm happy to dig into how to pull that out if you want, or at least hopefully that opened up to where some direction you want me to go from there.
Yeah, it's a good point because when a website comes to me and they want to make more money from their website,
right?
We take a look at their products. Yes, they have to have good products, but what is the story behind those products? What is the reason that they're in business in the first place? Because people want to like, know, and trust you. Pretty obvious stuff. But if you can really find a way to empathize with your visitors to potentially turn them into customers in their own way. So how would you pull out some of those stories for a SaaS or an e-commerce type of business?
Yeah, I love that because most SaaS or e-commerce companies, they think about, feature. Here's all the cool new features. Here's the 78 things that our software does. Here's the 27 things that our product does. And the truth of the matter is we forget all of that instantly, right? So you give me a 60-minute long presentation on all the stuff that your SaaS software does. It does this, and there's this bell and whistle, and there's this. As soon as that conversation ends, I go, I don't remember any of that stuff. What I remembered was the story you told me about the client that you helped who was near bankruptcy, and then they bought your software, and they were able to now pay their employees, and they were able to keep the lights on. That's the story I remember because that's the story that I go, I need that for my business, right? So I think there's two types of stories. There's your origin story of why you created your software program, right? Or e-commerce business or whatever business you have. Why did you get into that business, right? I work with a lot of financial advisors, like I said earlier, and, a lot of folks tell me the story of, their parents or their grandparents, died broke. Or, they retired and they were living in a 1-bedroom apartment and they could never travel. And they didn't want that for themselves. They didn't want that for someone else. Tell those stories. Those are the stories that relate to people. That's why you got in the business. I created this piece of software because my business was failing. I couldn't reach my customers. And so I developed this tool. Talk about those things because that's the stuff that we remember. That's the emotional connection. So now it's not just feature. It's the emotional connection that goes, wow, I need that product because I need that for the same reason that he needed that product. So that's one, is you need your origin story. Think about superhero movies, right? You watch Batman. Batman's been in like 30 movies now. Every single time, what do? They tell the story of his parents being killed and him being raised and becoming Batman. Superman, they tell the story every single time. Spider-Man, they tell the story of him getting bit by this. How many times can they do Spider-Man 1, right? But every time they have to do it because they have to tell the origin story because that's what we really relate to. So that's part one. Two is the stories of your customers because that really, really helps relate. So people call this case studies. They call it testimonials. I call it just storytelling. And it's getting to why did they purchase the product? What was their life like before they bought the product? What happened when they bought it? What was the catalyst? What struck it off? And then what happened? What was the transformation that happened? Most people just get testimonials. It's like, Alex was a great guy. He really helped me, right? There's no story in that. That doesn't emotionally connect with me. And so get those two stories, your origin story and get as many client stories as you can. Now, what you want to do with those stories, I think is fundamentally important, right? You need to tell those stories in media. So you might start just with your homepage, your website, right? So someone comes to your website, they're like, hey, I need more conversions. Well, tell your story on your website. Tell your story in your sales videos or your explainer videos or your presentations. Tell those stories. That's media that you control. So I'll back up a step. There's two types of media. There's media that you own and control, right? Your website, your email list, your Facebook page, your Twitter account. If you're sending out physical print newsletters, if you're sending out magazines, whatever it is, you control that media that directly talks to your customers. You want to tell your story in all of those and as often as possible. The second type of media would be mass media, right? So getting exposure in TechCrunch or Mashable or in the USA Today or Forbes magazine or getting on TV, whatever that is. You don't really have control of that. But what happens is people trust that media, right? So if I'm like, Alex, I was just in Forbes magazine yesterday. Like, well, that's pretty cool. Like I didn't read it, but that sounds cool just because there's credibility and there's trust already built inherently with that media. So we teach the secret formula for media success, if you will, is finding ways to get into mainstream media and tell your story in a Forbes, on a Mashable, on a TechCrunch, on whatever industry publication has trust within your marketplace. Get there and then use that and put it on the media that you own. So, hey, I was just seen in TechCrunch and here's the story that we told there. Because now you're going directly to the customer with something that they trust. So a little all over the place, but the moral of the story, get your origin story, get the story of your customers, and insert them into every piece of media that you possibly can, and continue to drip out spokes. So you might say, Greg, I've already told my story to all my customers, so why am I going to tell that again in my emails or my blog posts? A, because people forget. Right? They don't remember. B, because they like to be remembered. And there's always additional things you can keep bringing up. Like I talk about my kids in every single email I put out. Like, hey, just got back from a great beach weekend with the kids. Again, it reinforces that I'm a family guy, that I have values, that I'm a real person, that I'm not a machine. I talk about my fitness stuff. Like, oh, I just got back from a crazy CrossFit workout. It was insane. I was sweaty on the floor and it made me think of X. Right? So all of these stories, and I add them into personal media, and direct media. And we can dig into how to get into those medias if you want, or wherever else you want to go from here.
Yeah, I want to talk about how to get into the media, because that's definitely a struggle for people. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about networking and really being intentional with the time that you spend. A lot of people, they want more traffic to the website. They of course they want to, but they don't want to put the effort or time into either just doing some guest posting, or going to conferences, or going to your local chamber of commerce, or just going and talking to people. How important are those relationships that you're creating, and how can you put a plan together to be intentional about going and finding those networks to be around first?
Yeah, this is actually a really important question, and this actually stalled my career for a very long time, is because I networked with the wrong group of people, right? So you and I were talking real quick before this that we kind of met each other, hung out at some bar camps like 7-8 years ago and stuff, and I would go to a lot of these events, and the problem was I was running a social media marketing agency, and I was hanging out with other social media marketing agency people, right? They couldn't send me any business. They weren't my end customer. They were just, yeah, I might pick up a tool or a trick of the trade here, but I wasn't in front of my customer. Right? And if you want to make money, if you want to grow your business, you have to put your message in front of where your market lies, right? So I think step one is identifying the people, the places, the events, the things where your actual customers are, right? Is it great that, you are a social media marketer and you go speak at social media marketing world? Probably. That's cool, right? You're a cool deal in the industry. I would rather go and speak in front of 1,000 CEOs of, Fortune 1000 companies that are going to hire me to do my business than be known as the best social media guy in the social media circle, right? There's a time and a place for both, but if you're about growth and we're about optimizing your business, get in front of those people, be intentional about it. So, all right, so here's one of my favorite types of campaigns that we run, both for ourselves and for clients, and to get in front of our ideal marketplace is look at your city magazine. So in Orlando, there's like Orlando Magazine, there's Orlando Style, there's a couple different magazines. Then there's also the Business Journal, so Orlando Business Journal, and they have these in every city. So this isn't an Orlando specific thing. And what they do is they come out with these awesome lists, right? So the top 100 lawyers in Orlando, the top 100 doctors, the top 100 financial advisors, the top 100 whatever it is. And then the Orlando Business Journal just did a 40 under 40, the top CEOs, entrepreneurs under the age of 40. So what we do is we take that list and we have somebody kind of go through and filter that list and see who our clients would be on out of that list. Like, who do we want to be clients out of this top 100 list? And then what we do is, so say out of the top 100 lawyers in Orlando, what we'll do is we'll find maybe 40 of them that we really want to have as clients. And what we'll do is we will cut out, we'll buy 40 copies of the magazine, which that sounds crazy. Most people won't do that. We'll find 40 copies of the magazine. We'll get it. We'll rip out their page where they were featured. Like, so Alex was number 13, right? You're probably number 1, but hey, we'll rip Alex was number 13. We'll rip that out. We'll take the cover and we'll frame it. We'll put it in a frame where the cover of the magazine says top 100 attorneys. And here's Alex at number 13. We'll put it in a frame. I'll write a sales letter to him and say, Alex, congratulations, man. We're super excited for you. I'm sure, there's a lot of great stuff happening in your business. Wanted to send this to you because I'm sure, as much as you're being recognized, I'm sure there's people that aren't doing, a lot of cool stuff for you to show your appreciation. I just want you to know that there's another entrepreneur out here who appreciates what you're doing. We're a media marketing PR agency that works with, some of the top attorneys in Orlando, like A, like B, like C. And we'd love to see if we can, hang out and do some cool stuff for you. No worries. If not, just hang this up in your office and enjoy it. But if not, let's meet up. And we'll do that to 40 attorneys. Now, it's personalized. It's to them. It's a frame that, what the heck are you going to do with this big frame that like shows up at your office, right? And so now you're using their media to get their attention, right? Which is really, really cool. And, out of the 40, we'll get like 30 calls back. It's incredible. So again, we put ourselves into our market. We use direct media, so a media that we control, which is direct mail, right? We control the cost, we control the distribution, we know who it's going to. This shows up. It also gets past the gatekeeper, right? Because a lot of times you're in a SaaS business, you're trying to get the CEO or the CFO or somebody to, pay attention to you. They're not paying attention because they're busy dudes, right? This gets past the gatekeeper because they're like, well, this big ass box just showed up, it's got to be important, right? And so it gets through the gatekeeper and it's just stellar. And you can do that with all kinds of, different lists and mentions and stuff like that. We actually got the idea because someone did it to us. my partner Nick went to the University of Florida, and they did the Gator 100, the top 100 businesses started by Gator alumni, and we were number 4 or 5 on that list. And they sent us this, and we're like, this is awesome. And so we just started doing it. Now we do it for clients, and we send them out all the time, and it's just fantastic. So the going back to your question, the relationships are ultra important, but they have to be the right relationships, right? So what I always encourage and recommend to people is to build out a top 100 list. This is something that Tom Hopkins talked about in his old sales books, and Chet Holmes talks about in his old sales books. It was a mechanism called farming. If you're, for insurance guys or real estate guys, is you would, if you were in, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you would want to be the real estate agent for Coral Springs, Florida, right? And you would want everyone to know who you are. Well, the same is true in your industry. You don't want to be known by millions of people. You want to be known to the 100 or the 1,000 that are going to buy your stuff. I want to be a rock star to those 100 people. I want those 100 or 1,000 people to know that I'm a celebrity. I want them to have my book. I want them to listen to my podcast. I want them to watch my YouTube videos. I want them on my email list. I don't care if Joe's grandma's sister's cousin who's never going to buy my products on my email list. It inflates my ego, and I have a big one, but it doesn't make sales. So start with this target list of 100 people. Then get in media that they're paying attention to. So are these 100 people reading USA Today? If they're not, you don't need to be in USA Today. Are they reading a certain tech website? Well, then you want to be featured on that tech website. How can you do that? Can you buy ad placement? Can you do a promoted post on their website? Can you write a guest post for their website? Do they have a podcast that you can be a guest on? But find the media that only those 100 people are utilizing, because that's the place that you want to be seen. So get in that media. Then you want to find a way to get those 100 people on your own media platform, your email list, get their addresses. The cool thing is, if you're going after business owners, is you can buy lists. You can buy their physical addresses like that. Now you want to create media that you send to them. So you have a targeted distribution list. So instead of sending a direct mail piece to 10,000 people, I'm only sending it to 100. The other cool thing, if I'm only sending it to 100, is I can spend a little bit more to get to them. So I can, instead of sending a 50-cent postcard, I can send a $2, 8-page magazine. That's my own magazine. So I'm Oprah to my market. I have my own magazine. I have my own radio show. I have my own everything. It's not seen by millions of people. It's seen by the 100 people who are going to hire me. And so the relationships that you create should be with those 100 people and the influencers who have influence over those 100 people. And that should be your core focus as you start to grow your business. Your core focus shouldn't be on, how do I get in, Fast Company to be seen by millions of people, when those million people aren't your end consumer.
Yeah, I've also found Facebook to work well in small business clients. We try to figure out where the potential media people may be hanging out, or what conferences they're going to, and then buying very inexpensive, simple ads that are a little bit controversial. Maybe they really stand out, and it tends to get picked up. And it's not the person who of the conference is getting picked up. At least it spreads the word to those kind of people and the attendees. And usually it's a conference that someone they're about to present to and things like that. But having some targeted Facebook ads really tend to work as well.
Yeah, 100% agree, because you can, again, do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So you can create individualized ads, so like one ad to reach one person. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it if you're trying to get into the influencer, right? The other thing that we've done with conferences is generally, and this isn't true across the board, but generally, if you're a sponsor of an event, you can get access to either the speaker list or the pre-attendee list. So the people who have pre-bought tickets to, again, do some type of pre-marketing too. And I like this. So I'm an introvert. You put me in like a social environment and I'm talking to like the bartender, right? I'm totally awkward in these situations. And so what I'd like to do about events is I like to preset as many appointments as I can. Right? So do as much pre-marketing so that I have dinner scheduled, I have my lunch scheduled, because it's awkward, right? And there's a lot, especially if you're in like a techie type business, like we're just awkward folk, as it is. So if I can preset those appointments, really, really powerful. And again, what I like about all of this stuff that we're talking about is it pre-frames you as the expert. Right? So if before, Alex, you and I ever meet at a conference and I've sent you a copy of my book and I've sent you, a tear sheet of when I was in the Orlando Sentinel, and I've sent you, the best episode of my podcast where I interviewed this awesome guy, even if you didn't listen to it, read the book, anything, you're like, wow, this guy, he's kind of important, right? He's got books and he's in media and he's doing all this stuff. He's probably worth a conversation, right? And it also now sets me up as an expert as opposed to just a guy who's trying to, buy your time or get coffee from you or whatever it is. Now we're either on equal playing fields or you're excited to talk to me, which changes the entire conversation from me being a salesman to me being an expert. And I think that is a huge perception shift, is that if you're just trying to sell your product to somebody, you're perceived as a salesman. And what do we think about salesmen? We put our hands in our pockets and we run, right? And think about the last time you were at, Nordstrom's or any department store, and someone's like, "Hey, can I help you with anything? Help you find something?" And you're like, "No, man, I'm just browsing. I'm just looking." You're not just looking. You're looking for a pair of jeans, but you don't want to talk to the guy because he's going to sell you jeans and a shirt and a jacket, and you didn't want any of that stuff. So, but when you're perceived to be the expert, it completely changes the mindset of the person to, you know what, I want you to help me find the jeans and the suit and the jacket because you're the best fashion guy that I know to get me hooked up. And whether you're positioning your software, your e-commerce product, you should be positioning yourself as the expert, not as a salesman, right? And so many people position ourselves as salesmen, and people are scared of salesmen, so they're obviously going to be scared of you,
Yeah, and it takes time, putting together a podcast or a blog, or a successful SaaS business, going to all the conferences. These things are just not going to happen overnight. It takes you building those relationships, putting yourself out there, and being consistent with the content that you put out there to keep top of mind, to be that go-to person in that niche. So let's talk about you. You are the go-to person in media, and now you have a new site called Ambitious, ambitious.com. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for the past 8 years of the agency, we've been leveraging other people's media, right? So we have gotten people onto TV, into major newspapers and stuff like that. And this whole time, we're like, man, we got to pay all these people to get access to their media. What if we built our own media platform? And so essentially, that's what we were looking to do. We saw what's happening with the BuzzFeeds. My partner Nick is friends with Ariana Huffington, the Huffington Post, so we've seen what that's done to her and to that business. We look at like the Vice.coms out there in the world, and they're doing incredible things on a digital space where they've created a platform that people want to come to, right? They've created a destination, and also they've created distribution, which I think is really, really key, because when you have a product to sell, you want distribution. What I love about a media platform, like what we just talked about, if I have those 100 influencers who are on my email list, well, guess what? I send an email out and I can make sales. Right? So what we want to do is to create a media platform where we could, feature a company, feature a brand, feature one of our own products, and have hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are coming to our destination, looking at our media platform and trusting us and our recommendations. So it's one heck of an undertaking, I will tell you that. And so we went out and we bought ambitious.com. It was not a very cheap domain to buy, but we wanted the authority, we wanted the trust, we wanted to come out the gates with that trust, at least from a domain side. So they're like, wow, this is, it's not like Joe Schmo's ambitiousday.com. We went out with it with a nice domain. We're building out content for the millennial marketplace. So the 20-somethings is really who we're going after. We felt that was a really good market for us, for the kind of content that we were doing, and also our own distribution outlets. We have a lot of access to colleges, college writers, college programs, to get them to be the content creators for us for the site to draw in eyeballs. The model that we really like, and this is something that I think a lot of you can learn from, is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to create content that gets people in the front door, right? So blog posts, podcasts, videos to get eyeballs to the website. But what we want to do is we really want to capture them and put them onto our email distribution list, which is our media platform. The problem that a lot of folks have with blogs, with podcasts, with a lot of even their Facebook pages is every day you look at your analytics and you start the day at 0. Right? So you got 1,000 people that came and looked at your blog yesterday. Well, tomorrow you're at 0 again, unless you do Facebook promotions or promoted posts or whatever it is. If you can build an email list of 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, in our case, we're looking to grab over 1 million people. Every day we send out an email with here's all our new articles. We have built-in distribution for our content, which I think is really, really cool. So if you look at like the Wall Street Journal, that their articles are going to be read by 1 million people every single day because they have a 1 million person subscriber list that gets the newspaper delivered at their front door, right? That's very, very powerful. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to really expand on what we've built to build this media platform. We're trying to go after millennials. The second piece of it is a lot of people that create blogs, create podcasts, they live and die on advertising and sponsorships. And while they're great, and I love advertisers, I love sponsors, I love people that give me money to talk into a microphone or to write posts, I didn't want to be dependent on that model, because now you're dependent on an eyeball model. We wanted to go into a commerce model, which is something that we actually are half decent at, where we can sell stuff. And so again, if you have 10,000 people on an email list, You can drive them to content. They trust the content. They trust our recommendations. Well, they're probably also going to trust us for the products that we sell them. So we're rolling out, courses and training programs, but also physical goods, travel agency type programs, rewards type programs, and trying to build out commerce. So they trust us for the recommendation. And then they're going to use us to fulfill that recommendation is really where we're going with it, so we can monetize them from the top down. The third thing that I really like about this, the model that we're trying to do is, if I said, Alex, if you read a BuzzFeed article in the last, 60 days, do you remember who wrote it? Not a clue, right? It's just 10 funny cats. You're like, that was funny, it was great, but you don't know who wrote it. I want to put the focus back on the journalists, is what I saw with old media. So like Fox News right now, love them, hate them, doesn't matter, but all their people. The Aaron Burnett's and the Bill O'Reillys and the Sean Hannity's and the Rick Sanchez's. These personalities, and people come to those channels for the personalities. And so we wanted to build a media network that had personalities, because from our side, A, we can build a business behind them. So if I build the next Bill O'Reilly, A, is I get distribution from him because people are fans of his and want to read his content. But B, now I can publish books of his. I can go out and put him in and do live events. He can go out and do speaking. We can develop products. We can develop courses. We can develop an entire business around these folks. And so what we can have is 100 journalists with 100 micro businesses going out there with commerce, because people, again, going back to the first thing I said, people buy from people, and they buy from people they know, like, and trust. If I can build our journalists into people that the marketplace knows, likes, and trusts, we're in good shape. So I think there's some teachable lessons in there, in that you use your media, use your blog posts, you use your podcast to bring people to your media platform, which would be your email distribution list, your customer list, because that's where the true power is, because that's where the commerce takes place. And in most of our businesses, we're trying to sell something. And if we can get them to trust our content, trust our recommendations, well, then they'll start to buy our products and services. And that's what we're trying to do, just on a grand scale, impacting, millions of folks.
Yeah, well, ambitious.com is certainly a great domain name. The tagline on it is do what others won't. And that's definitely pushing the more risk takers, young entrepreneurs. It looks like a lot of great content that you guys are putting together. Mostly it seems like all original content.
Yeah, all original content. We're focused on that 20-something marketplace, and what I've seen in that marketplace. So if you're marketing to millennials, this is a quick little thing to think about, is that there's really two groups that are really starting to form. One is the guy who's on, it's Friday night and he's at home and he's got his little phone out and he's scrolling through Instagram, and he's scrolling through Facebook, and he's watching Netflix, and he's not doing much with his life. He does 9 to 5, happy hour, scroll through Instagram and watch Netflix. And then there's the person that's actually creating the Instagrams and going out there and building a life for himself. And so what we want to do is we want to help more people to live their life, to go out and know that there's more things to do. When you were growing up, you played Little League and you went to, karate class, and you were in the drama club and you were in band and you were playing football and you were doing all this stuff. And then you get out of college and now there's work, and that's all you do. All the extracurricular activities stop. So we're trying to bring that back and help people to live a more ambitious life through travel, through, side projects, through better careers, through better relationships, through all these different things. And so we profile people, and we do a lot of interviews with young 20-somethings, and to show people that, hey, Alex is doing something cool. Maybe you can do something cool too. But then the second side of it is now how to do that, right? So now I'm inspired, but how do I actually do it? So now we want to actually show them how to go about living more ambitiously. Again, if they see the inspiration that we can give them, that might drive them in. The how-to is going to get them to trust us, because maybe they read an article about how to go to a bar, meet the bouncer, meet the bartender, and establish a relationship so you get the drinks first. Now they're like, wow, I trust this guy. I got off my couch, I went out, I had a great time, I traveled, and I did what they told me to do. Now they started to trust us. Now, again, the commerce comes into play, and now we can sell them things once we've established that trust in the marketplace.
Well, I think it's a really interesting idea. I mean, you see the whole shift, Instagram, success, now like quotes and reading and education. Yeah. It's like cool, all of a sudden, knowledge is good. Being dumb is not. But it's interesting, the whole shift of how the internet has really fast paced that, people who do personal development and self-help, quoting certain books. Now you hear young people, a lot younger, doing it, and it's not necessarily people are unsure if they should actually be going to college or not. And then once they leave college, they don't even know what to do. So they go to the internet, maybe go to podcasts to try to figure out what to do with their lives. So Ambitious seems like it's kind of going to fill that need.
Yeah, and again, I think you made some really important points there, is that they do have access to so much information, but sometimes it's paralyzing at the same time. I mean, just last night, right? So my wife and I sit down, we got the kids to bed finally, and we get on the couch and we open up Netflix, and there's unlimited choices of things to watch. So we are looking for recommendation engines to help us make recommendations. That's why, Spotify tells you, what songs your friends are listening to, and I like Alex, he's a cool guy, maybe I would like what he's listening to. Right? And so all that stuff, God damn it.
All right, well, let's tell people how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, so I'd love it if they just check out ambitious.com. I'm obviously one of the writers there as well, so they can read some of the content, and that's a great place. The social media world, I'm just Greg Rollett everywhere, so the Facebook, the Twitters, the Instagrams, wherever they want to go, they can learn more, and obviously I'll be hanging out in the comments of your section, so if people want to go deeper in any of this or have questions, I'd love to come out and help them in any way. If they're starting a company, like, hey, how do I do this? I'd love to just give them as much value as they can to grow their business.
What would be, to conclude, what would be the next step that you would tell listeners to take to get into the media and become that celebrity of their marketplace?
Yeah, so it all starts by identifying who it is you want your customer to be, identifying that if I had these 100 clients, my business would change dramatically, and then find out what media outlets impact those 100 people, whether it's blogs, whether it's podcasts, whether it's print media. It doesn't, the media doesn't really matter. You need to, but what media your market wants to and consumes content from is really what matters. So you have to start there, because again, I can get you in USA Today tomorrow, but if your customer isn't reading it, who cares, right? So you have to start with that list. And I know it's boring, I know it's homework, people don't like to do that, but if you do that, everything else opens up to you, because now we can go direct to the media. And the cool thing is, either you can write for them, you can guest post for them, but you can also buy your way into them with sponsored content, sponsored promotion, with ads, with email buys. You can do all kinds of cool stuff, but you have to know where to go first, and all the rest really falls down like dominoes.
Thanks a lot for your time, Greg.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
For weekly new episodes and an archive of over 100 digital marketing experts, make sure you go visit the website marketingoptimization.tv. And remember, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Later.